Good afternoon. My name is Nate McCoy. I'm with the Iowa Golf Association, and we're going to cover penalty areas today. Rule 17 is a specific rule for penalty areas, which are bodies of water or other areas defined by the committee where a ball is often lost or unable to be played. This definition has slightly changed since 2018. The second point here, where um, the committee can deem an area where a ball is often lost or unable to be played, is new. Those areas now can encompass areas such as fescue or even heavily wooded areas where a ball just would be normally hard to find or played. Now, for one penalty stroke, players may use specific relief options to play a ball from outside the penalty area. Penalty areas are defined as either red or yellow, and depending on which one your ball last crosses or is believed to be resting in, your relief options may differ slightly. Now, a player may stand in a penalty area to play a ball outside the penalty area, and this is even including after the player decides to take relief from that penalty area. So, if you are taking relief from the penalty area, you do not have to have complete relief, meaning that you still can stand in it and play that shot. Now, a ball is considered in a penalty area when any part of the ball lies on or touches the ground or anything else inside the edge of a penalty area. This also includes when a ball is above the edge or any other part of a penalty area. And this example here shows Ernie Els' ball in a bush that's uh, that's above the ground. The ball is above the edge of the penalty area, but that ball is still deemed to be inside the penalty area. Now, the player may take um, or may play the ball um, without penalty um, inside a penalty area with the same rules that apply to a ball that would be in the general area. So this means the player now can remove loose impediments. He can ground his club. He can take practice swings. Basically, it's treated the same as if he was in the general area. Now, if the player chooses not to do that, he has to take the ball outside the penalty area by taking one of these penalty relief options. There is one exception to this, though. If a player has a shot or has a ball that's in a penalty area where he would like to play it, but that penalty area happens to be a no-play zone penalty area, that player must at all times take relief. Now, if a player's ball has not been found and it is known or virtually certain that the ball came to rest in a penalty area, the player may take relief under Rule 17.1D or 17.2. Now, this known or virtually certain is very important. Under the rules, it means that you must be 95% sure that that ball is in the penalty area. Now, once a player puts another ball in play to take a relief, such as this player here on the right, the original ball, if he happens to find it, even if it's within 3 minutes, uh, must be abandoned and must not be played. So the player must proceed with the ball that was dropped. So be careful that when you're searching for a golf ball and when you decide to put another ball in play, just make sure that you've exhausted all, the whole 3 minutes and didn't do anything prematurely. Now, if a player's ball is in a penalty area, including when it is known or virtually certain to be in a penalty area, even though not found, the player is going to have three relief options. And these are the same options that were available prior to the 2019 rules changes. Um, the first option, you can take either stroke and distance relief. The second is back on the line relief, and the third is lateral relief, and that's only available from a red penalty area. If the player chooses to take stroke and distance relief, the player may play the original ball or another ball from where the previous stroke was made. As you can see here, that could be done pretty much in any area of the golf course. Now, back on the line relief, the player must drop the original ball or another ball in a relief area that is basically from in a line, imaginary line from the flag um, through the point that the ball was believed to last crossed back as far as that person would want. The reference point here, marked by the X, is a point that's going to be chosen by the player that needs to be on the reference line. That point can be back as far back on that line as you'd like. So if you are someone who's taking relief, and you feel like, oh, I can only take, maybe 2 club links from here, just remember that this is an option to you that can get you, sometimes it's only 10 yards back and it gets you to the fairway. Just make sure that you know that rule, because you can definitely use it to your advantage in certain situations. Now, when choosing this reference point, the player, in my opinion, should use an object such as a tee to mark that reference point. If the player drops the ball without having chosen this point, here's an illustration of how you can proceed. So the reference point, as you saw, the ball would drop just to the right of that reference line. The reference point is then going to be treated as being the point on the line that is the same distance from the hole as where the dropped ball first touched the ground. Now, if that ball happened to, in this case, the ball rolled backwards, which ended up being fine, the player could then play on. But in some cases, that ball might hit and roll forward and end up ahead of where that ball first touched the ground. In that case, the player should redrop. Now, the size of the relief area, and generally every case, is going to be 1 club length. There's certain limits, though, and I'll cover these real quick. The first is the player must drop no nearer the hole than the reference point. The player must also drop anywhere else on the golf course except the area the person was taking relief from, which was the penalty area. And in this case, this player, what I'm going to explain here is that when a player is taking relief, the player needs to drop the ball in the same area of the golf course, and or needs to drop a ball in whatever area of the golf course it first drops. The ball must stay in that area. So, example is if the ball is dropped in the general area, the ball needs to stay in the general area. If the ball is dropped in the bunker, the ball needs to stay in the bunker. They can't move from from the bunker to the general area. So just know that whatever area you drop in, and whatever area the ball first touches, is the area the ball needs to stay in. Now, number 3 for lateral relief, the reference point here, as always, has been an estimated point where the original ball last crossed the edge of the red penalty area. This is one of 2 times where you'll be able to use 2 club links to take relief. The other option is unplayable ball relief. Again, the player must not drop a ball closer to the hole than the reference point, and the player must drop in any area of the golf course except the penalty area that he took relief from, and must stay in the area that the ball first touched the ground. A penalty from playing a ball from a wrong place is going to be in breach of Rule 17.1 and is going to be the general penalty. Now, you will actually receive 3 penalty strokes for this, only if you remember that you first have to take into account the penalty stroke for taking the initial relief. So if you take the initial relief but then play from a wrong place, you will be getting 3 strokes and not just 2. Now we're going to move into 17.2. There's broken into 2 parts, point A and B. Now, if a ball played from a penalty area happens to come to rest in the same penalty area or another penalty area, the player has a couple options. The first option is the player may play the ball as it lies. Or for 1 penalty stroke, the player may take relief under any of these options following. So here's an example. Basically, the player starts at point A, he hits his ball out of a penalty area, and it stays in the original penalty area. So his ball then ends up at point B. For 1 penalty stroke, the player can either drop again at point A and play his next shot, from the same penalty area, or that player can then get out instead and either take back on the line relief, lateral relief, or play from where the last stroke was made from outside the penalty area. Now, if the player takes stroke and distance relief by dropping the ball in the penalty area and then decides, oh, I don't really want to play this ball that I dropped, the player then may take further relief outside the penalty area under those three other options. So there are times where, you know, you get into a hurry and a rush and you choose just to drop a ball without thinking. Well, this is a time you really should consider your options, because in this case, it's going to cost him two penalty strokes. Now, after playing a ball from a penalty area, a player may be required at times, or may choose to take stroke and distance relief. This is going to be because the ball was either out of bounds or lost, or was found to be unplayable. Now, if the player takes the initial stroke and distance relief by dropping the ball in the penalty area and then decides not to play the drop ball from where it comes to rest, the player, again, as I said earlier, may take further relief outside the penalty area under those three options. Now, if the player does so, as I mentioned earlier, it's the same case as if the player plays from the same penalty area. This case, it's a slightly different case. Still going to receive two penalty strokes. So, as I said, make sure that you can make sure you know your options. Now, to kind of get yourself away from the two penalty strokes, the player may directly take relief outside the penalty area. Here's an example. This is an amateur who's playing the U.S. Open. Finds himself in the rocks and or the sand. Shanks it out of bounds. Realizes that he can't play that ball. So he returns back to the spot where he previously played. And instead of dropping a ball at and inside the sand, he can back up, take his additional option, and take it back on the line relief. And then plays his sixth stroke. Now, there are some times when a player's ball is in a penalty area and there's no relief available for certain instances, and this would be one of them when the player, in this case, has interference by an abnormal course condition. I think that that bridge is in her way, but she's in a penalty area. She won't be able to receive any relief. Now, if your ball is embedded or the ball is unplayable, this rule would not apply. You would then have to basically take your normal penalty relief for those options. Now, that was Rule 17. We covered point 1, point 2, and point 3. If you do have any questions, please take a look at it in the book, or get in touch with us at the Iowa Golf office, and we'd love to help you out. So thank you, and have fun this summer.